The night the Lakers got humiliated on national television should have been remembered for the scoreboard, for the embarrassment, for the complete collapse of a franchise that once terrified the league. But that disaster became background noise the second Luka Doncic hit the floor clutching his leg while an entire arena went silent in shock. In that moment, you could literally feel the soul of the Lakers' season crack in half. Luka wasn't just another superstar dealing with pain. This was a man carrying the entire weight of a dying franchise on his shoulders every single night, dragging them into relevance while everybody else rode the spotlight he created. He was chasing history, chasing an MVP season that had already forced the basketball world to admit he was the true engine behind the Lakers machine, and then suddenly it was all ripped away in one brutal moment. The cameras caught the devastation written all over his face. Not anger, not frustration, pure heartbreak. The kind of heartbreak that happens when a player realizes the dream he sacrificed his body for might be over. But while Luka was trying to process the possibility that his season, his MVP race, and maybe even the Lakers' championship hopes had just died in front of millions of people, something unbelievably disgusting was happening behind the scenes. Instead of unity, instead of support, instead of teammates rallying around their fallen brother, the tunnel inside that arena turned into the stage for one of the ugliest betrayals modern basketball has ever seen. Austin Reaves, already furious after hearing a clown fan scream insults at Luka while he limped off the court, walked into the tunnel expecting pain, silence, emotion, maybe even fear from a team realizing their season was finished. Instead, he walked into laughter. Not nervous laughter, not uncomfortable laughter, genuine happiness. Bronny James reportedly standing there smiling, joking, acting like the injury was some kind of opportunity instead of a tragedy. And for Austin Reaves, that was the final straw. Because unlike most people in that locker room, Reaves actually cared about Luka as more than a teammate. Luka and Reaves built chemistry through sacrifice, through trust, through surviving the chaos surrounding a franchise obsessed with image over basketball. Reaves saw Luka bleeding for this team every night while others focused on documentaries, cameras, narratives, and legacy branding. So hearing someone mock Luka at the lowest moment of his season triggered something primal inside him. According to people close to the situation, Bronny allegedly joked about Luka being dramatic and hinted that the injury opened up more opportunities for other players. Imagine hearing that while your brother is emotionally shattered in the training room. Imagine hearing that from someone whose NBA existence is questioned every single week by fans, analysts, and former players alike. Reaves didn't see a teammate in that moment. He saw entitlement. He saw arrogance protected by a last name. He saw a spoiled kid laughing while the only reason the Lakers were even relevant was lying injured behind closed doors. And that's why the situation exploded. This wasn't some soft NBA argument where guys pretend to fight while security gently separates them. This was real rage. The kind of rage built from months of tension boiling underneath the surface. Because insiders have been whispering for a long time that the Lakers stopped being a real team months ago. They became two separate kingdoms forced to share one locker room. On one side was Luka and Reaves, players obsessed with competing, grinding, winning, sacrificing for basketball. On the other side was the LeBron empire, a machine fueled by branding, control, narrative management, and protecting the family legacy at all costs. And once Luka became more beloved than expected, once fans started realizing the Lakers looked more dangerous with Luka leading the charge, that tension became toxic. Suddenly, every mistake Luka made got magnified. Every defensive breakdown became a media discussion. Every injury became suspicious. Meanwhile, Bronny continued getting opportunities despite struggling badly on the floor, and fans began noticing something that nobody wanted to say out loud. The Lakers weren't being run like a championship organization anymore. They were being run like a production company. Cameras everywhere. Legacy stories everywhere. Father-son headlines everywhere. Basketball became secondary to the script. That's why people exploded when Austin Reaves reportedly looked into the media cameras afterward and said you can tell a lot about somebody by how they were raised. That wasn't just a shot at Bronny. That was a direct missile aimed at the entire culture surrounding LeBron James. Because people have started connecting dots that once sounded impossible to question. Why did LeBron look emotionally detached while Luka was injured? Why did the team suddenly resemble a group of strangers running random plays instead of contenders? Because deep down, everyone knows the truth. Luka Doncic became the emotional heartbeat of the Lakers the second he arrived. He connected with staff members, security guards, arena workers, teammates, fans. He brought passion back to a franchise drowning in celebrity culture. He played with fire while others played for cameras. And that authenticity terrified people whose entire empire depends on controlling the spotlight. That's why this story exploded beyond basketball. Fans weren't just reacting to an injury. They were reacting to the feeling that something rotten exists underneath the surface of one of sports' biggest franchises. They were reacting to the idea that loyalty, brotherhood, and competition have been replaced by branding, manipulation, and narrative warfare. And Austin Reaves' snapping became symbolic of all of it. Because for one brief moment, someone inside the building finally reacted like a real human being instead of a media-trained robot protecting corporate interests. He defended his brother. He defended dignity. He defended the soul of basketball itself against a culture that increasingly feels fake, scripted, and manufactured for headlines instead of championships. And the deeper this nightmare unfolded, the more impossible it became to ignore the horrifying pattern following LeBron James throughout his entire career. People once called him the greatest leader in basketball history, the ultimate teammate, the king who elevated everybody around him. But now fans are starting to ask a brutal question nobody wanted to confront before. What if the people around LeBron were never true partners at all? What if they were always temporary tools in a machine designed to protect one man's legacy above everything else? Because when you go back through the timeline, the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. Every star who threatened to become bigger than the script eventually found themselves isolated, criticized, blamed, or emotionally exhausted. Kyrie Irving delivered one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history and still walked away feeling suffocated by LeBron's shadow. Kevin Love sacrificed numbers, sacrificed confidence, sacrificed mental peace, only to become a punching bag whenever things collapsed. Even Anthony Davis, despite winning a championship, constantly absorbed criticism while LeBron's image somehow stayed protected. And now Luka Doncic, arguably the most naturally gifted offensive player of his generation, suddenly finds himself in the exact same storm. The timing feels too perfect to ignore. Luka arrived in Los Angeles and immediately became the center of attention because, unlike everyone else, he didn't need help becoming a superstar. He didn't need the Lakers' spotlight to become relevant. He didn't need documentaries or branding campaigns to force his greatness into the media cycle. Fans organically gravitated toward him because Luka represents something rare in modern sports: authenticity. The man plays with emotion. He bleeds on the court. He argues, screams, laughs, cries, fights through injuries, and competes like every possession could define his career. Fans see themselves in Luka because he feels real. And that authenticity created a dangerous problem for the LeBron empire. For the first time in years, the Lakers weren't revolving around LeBron emotionally anymore. The crowd reactions changed. The conversations changed. The MVP chants changed. Even opposing arenas started treating Luka like the true centerpiece of the franchise. And that shift terrified people who spent decades building LeBron into the permanent face of every room he enters. Suddenly, the cameras weren't naturally following LeBron anymore. They were drifting toward Luka. Fans weren't discussing LeBron's greatness after games. They were discussing Luka dropping 40-point masterpieces while carrying broken lineups on his back. The nightmare scenario for the LeBron machine had arrived, another superstar becoming more beloved than the king himself while wearing the same jersey. That's why every injury, every mistake, every emotional reaction from Luka started getting weaponized immediately. Sports shows questioned his conditioning. Analysts questioned his leadership. Media personalities hinted that he complained too much. The criticism became nonstop despite the fact Luka was producing at a level few players in NBA history have ever touched. Meanwhile, Bronny James kept receiving minutes that fans believed he hadn't earned, and frustration across the basketball world exploded because the contrast was impossible to miss. Luka was carrying the franchise while Bronny symbolized everything fans hate about nepotism. Every missed shot, every careless turnover, every awkward possession became another reminder that the Lakers were prioritizing a family storyline over basketball reality. Yet the media kept trying. People accused media personalities of protecting LeBron's image at all costs because criticizing the king still feels forbidden in many sports circles. And then came the most explosive part of the entire drama, Austin Reaves becoming collateral damage too. After reportedly confronting Bronny and defending Luka behind the scenes, Reaves suddenly suffered an injury himself shortly afterward, fueling conspiracy theories across the internet. Fans started connecting every dot imaginable. They pointed toward Rich Paul trade rumors involving Reaves. They pointed toward Clutch Sports insiders constantly downplaying Reaves' importance. They pointed toward LeBron's history of surrounding himself with loyalists while outsiders mysteriously disappear. Whether those theories are true or not almost stopped mattering because public trust had already shattered. The Lakers fan base no longer viewed the franchise as unified. They viewed it as divided into political factions fighting for control behind closed doors. And the saddest part of all this is that Luka and Reaves represented exactly what Lakers basketball used to stand for. Toughness, passion, hunger, loyalty. They played like every game mattered more than fame. They fought for each other while others protected brands and narratives. Fans saw genuine chemistry between them, genuine brotherhood, genuine competitive fire. That's why Austin Reaves became such a beloved figure despite not being a superstar. People respect fighters. They respect players willing to speak emotionally instead of hiding behind PR statements. Reaves represented resistance against a culture many fans now view as fake and corporate. And when he reportedly exploded after hearing Luka mocked, millions of fans secretly understood why. Because deep down, people are tired of seeing loyalty treated like weakness in modern sports. They're tired of seeing real competitors sacrificed for media narratives. They're tired of seeing franchises prioritize celebrity culture over winning basketball games. The Lakers used to intimidate the league because they represented greatness. Now people increasingly see them as a reality show drowning in ego and manipulation. And the cruel irony is that Luka might have been the only person capable of saving them from that collapse. He brought life back into the building. He made fans care again. He reminded people why basketball matters more than branding. Yet instead of embracing him completely, the environment around the team allegedly became hostile, jealous, and political. That's why this entire controversy hit fans so emotionally hard. It wasn't just about an injury or a fight. It became symbolic of something much bigger happening across sports culture: the death of authenticity, the replacement of competition with content creation, the transformation of legendary franchises into image management machines. And now the Lakers stand at a terrifying crossroads. Because fans are no longer blindly buying the narrative being sold to them. They see the dysfunction. They see the cracks. They see the emotional exhaustion surrounding players who genuinely want to win. And most importantly, they see Luka Doncic as the victim of a culture that feared his greatness instead of celebrating it. If the Lakers continue down this road, the damage could last for years. Because once fans stop believing in the soul of a franchise, once they start viewing every moment as scripted manipulation instead of authentic competition, the magic disappears forever. And right now, the Lakers look less like a basketball dynasty and more like a kingdom collapsing under the weight of ego, control, betrayal, and a desperate obsession with protecting one man's legacy at the expense of everybody else.